live video here on Sunday, July 28th at 6:45 p.m. San Diego time, and it's on the month of August 2019. So folks, August 2019 is fast approaching, and this is going to be the forecast for August 2019, Vedic Astrology forecast. So we have a big month ahead, so let's get right to it. I'm bringing up, there we go. There's the stream, and there's the screenshot of August 2019. Now, where am I? Let's see. Oh, this is already, July 31st. So let's go to the, this is August 31st, and this is August 1st right here. Let me change the hours, go back a little bit. So as you see, we start August 1st with the moon in Cancer. So it's right after the new moon. It's the first day of the Solar lunar month as well. As you see, it's Shukla Pratipad, and this is the first day of the month, of the lunar month as well. So it's not only the Gregorian calendar month, but it's the Solar lunar month, right? See, because the moon has just become new. And so that's a nice start. And it's in Cancer. So this month of August really has a powerful quality of Cancer to it, which has to do with, of course, this has to do with family, the home, stable emotional structures, boundaries. These kinds of things will be very important in starting off the month. And let me just say hi to some people here. We have Salone is here. Hello. Mahina is here. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Lisa La Rosa, good evening. Anna Bobana. Anna Bobana Bana. Candice is here. Namaste. Daniel Septembre. Hello from Brussels. Hello. So we're here, and thank you for showing up. And so again, we're starting off here on August 1st, Venus and Moon here, Venus-Moon conjunction. And, of course, those who are part of my member site will have will be able to see this for their particular sign, the forecast for your sign, new and full moon. I'm just putting this here. So there's the the indicator and the link. So again, this is right after the new moon, which happens on July 31st in a couple days. This new moon in Cancer will be different for each person based on what your rising sign is. So again, if your rising sign is, Taurus, then this will be in your third house. If your rising sign is Gemini, it'll be in your second house. So again, that's completely different. So you want to know this and be aware of it. So that's what I do at my member site. You can try that for 50 cents for 2 weeks and see if it's something that you want to keep doing. Most people stay members for quite a while because not only do you get that on the new and full moons, but you also get daily forecasts where I go through each day and update people on the daily forecast. Literally, that daily forecast has to do with the, it has to do with the Vedic Panchanga, which is, the Vedic Panchanga is the classical Indian timekeeping system, and so that classic Indian timekeeping system is what we go over every day in the member site. And this is actually the member site. This is the Astrology Training Lab. You see it live. Just today, this was the forecast that people got. You get this forecast from me, and you get this other very extensive forecast from my student Jeff. This is so long that it opened up a new window. So this is all the this is a private, message, or I'm sorry, a private Facebook group. Again, daily forecast. This was from me on the 27th. This is for me on the 26th. So there's tons of members and a lot of information that we do. This is for people who want to really go much more deeper into their astrological studies. So that's available to you for 2 weeks if you go to that astrology training lab. And here's the link again. I just put it up there again. So check that out if you want. Of course, on this new moon in Cancer, I do the forecast for each of the 12 signs, because the new moon is that soli lunar metaphysical cycle that we're all dealing with all the time. And also the Gregorian calendar month, but that's just, the Gregorian calendar is just a sort of civil calendar. And these things are always different in India. You had a civil calendar and you also had a cosmic calendar. And by the way, they were aligned very well in India. That's why in India, all of the holidays or the holy days are actually aligned with the soli lunar calendar. Like we just had Guru Purnima, that's a full moon. We celebrate it. It's not a calendar date. It's not a Gregorian calendar date. It's a lunar date, right? So this is what I do in that Vedic Astrology training lab is I talk about each cosmic day that never repeats. And then I also talk about how in these important, cosmic cycles like this new moon that is happening in a few days in Pisces, in Cancer, how that's going to affect each individual sign. Because if you're Aries, it's going to be in your 4th house. If you're Gemini, it's your 2nd house. If you're Scorpio, it's your 9th house. That's totally different. So keep that in mind. And then we see Alexa Ray Garcia is here, and she said, thank you for the great reading and teachings. You're certainly welcome. Anna Bobana says, thanks for the shout out. Love your astrology channel. You're certainly welcome. And I like that name, Anna Bobana. That's nice. All right, so let's rock and roll here a little more and keep going forward. So again, as I say, we're starting off August with a very powerful Cancer energy. Jupiter is also aspecting the moon, and Jupiter is aspecting these planets as they go through Cancer. And so that's really important. Mercury is now moving forward. It's actually not really moving forward yet, but it's no longer retrograde. It's what's called stationary direct. You see here on August 1st, Mercury is 2950. The day before, let's go day. The day before, it's like 2949. Look, it's really not moving at all. It's called stationary direct, so it's kind of stopped. So it's very powerful there at the beginning, this Mercury stationary direct in Gemini, which is quite powerful. And that's also a good omen for starting out. A few other things. Again, Jupiter is in Scorpio still. It's about to go direct. And we also have Mars is pretty deeply debilitated and pretty close to the moon. So this Mars has been debilitated for several weeks, for actually more than a month. So there's been some frustration perhaps coming through and whatnot. Mars is also combust. So again, there's been quite a bit of frustration. We can feel that frustration kind of building up. But because Mars has been debilitated, we haven't been acting out as much. But that's going to change when Mars goes into Leo. We're going to see some more acting out where this frustration is going to, be more externalized and more expressed. We'll see that as we go forward in August. But at the beginning, you see this energy is just kind of sitting there in Aslesha Nakshatra, which is that sort of coiled serpent. But we do have, again, this aspect of Jupiter onto Mars, Jupiter onto the moon, Jupiter from Scorpio, which is bringing a lot of metaphysical inspiration and purpose and digging into the depths. Again, we still have this Ketu Saturn is very close together. And again, Saturn is about to turn direct here at some point. And then when he turns direct, it'll pass K2 again. So he's still retrograde for the rest of this month. He turns direct, I believe, it's early September, like September 9th or something like that. So this is all sort of the backdrop. There's a lot of that same energy. But most of what we see changing is over here with the sun pulling Venus, Mercury along. This is how we see the months change. The sun kind of pulls Venus and Mercury along, and then the other planets are also kind of trucking along at their place. So we start this August 1st with moon in Cancer. It's a new moon. So that August 1st is very good for, feeling the depth of your heart, feeling that, peace of mind and wanting to really go deeper into it. But you can see how, moon is dark. It's joined debilitated Mars. So there might be some frustration, restlessness at the beginning, at least the first day of August. And then, again, we can see this frustration kind of continue because Sun is still in Cancer and Mars is combusted and debilitated. Then then Mars goes into, one more time, the moon goes into Leo. So moon in Leo on August 2nd, 3rd, and into the 4th. That can show some pretty fiery emotions, kind of fired up emotions and psychology. You can see Mercury also, by the time we get to the 3rd, Mercury has now poked his head back in Cancer, and it's going to start moving at a normal pace here pretty soon. But again, the Mars combustion is quite troubling, and Mars is going to be combust for the whole month. It's going to be combust in Leo as he starts to move forward here. And Mars combustion means there's a high potential for arguing and battling. Again, especially once he moves into Leo, but even now we can start to feel some frustration, building up as he, in early August. So, but in addition, we also have Venus, Mercury here in Cancer, which can show some, sweetness and creativity, especially with your children and your beloveds and students and other things, other family environments. There's a lot of emphasis on that. Okay, a lot of emphasis on the home environment, family environment, and things like that. And especially with the aspect from Jupiter, overall, all of these planets here, it can be a nice sort of fulfilling time with your friends and family and in your sort of comfort zone and in your domestic life as these planets go through Cancer aspected by Jupiter. But again, we have on the 2nd and the 3rd, and this is Friday and Saturday and into Sunday, the moon is in Leo, which is that individuality and that kind of a little fired up nature. Again, then on the 4th and the 5th mainly, and then into the 6th, the moon is in Virgo, and Virgo is about skills and sort of intelligence and wanting to organize things in the best possible way. That's what, Virgo is. So when we bring in this Virgo energy, we wind up with this, with this sort of intellectual approach and this sort of organizing structure. You want to be careful about nitpicking and things like that on these days, particularly because Mercury is still a little bit weak and it's not quite in Cancer yet, and the degrees are quite low. But in general, this isn't so bad. It's that Virgo energy. Just be careful with all the Virgo, the sort of negative qualities of Virgo. You can see that the combustion of Mars is getting closer. Sun is 1851, Mars is 27. So you'll see the sun's going to get closer and closer to Mars and burn it up even more. Mars is at its deepest debilitation here in early August, as you can see. So there's some frustration. You might not be expressing yourself so well. You might be feeling a little frustrated, especially with those, close, intimate people in your life. Again, which is those qualities of Cancer. And again, this is why Mars is debilitated there, because Mars is better when we're focused on something else, not our family and the people around us that were trying to make us feel powerful and courageous. It's better to be powerful and courageous out there in the world, accomplishing something, not in our sort of domestic life. So be careful about that. Notice this energy and how it's sort of, you could get into some frustrating arguments with those people in your family or in your immediate environment. And then on August 6th and 7th and part of the 8th, the moon is in Libra. Now, Libra is ruled by Venus. Again, this is good for relationships, for your partnerships, sexuality, creativity, those kinds of things. This moon in Libra is good for that. Again, you can see now the sun is, again, still getting closer to the combustion of Mars. There'd be some frustration there, perhaps. Venus and the sun is also very combust in the sky. So you see Venus getting burned up. It's on the other side of the sun. So we have both Venus and Mars quite combust. I should have even been saying the whole time that Venus is also very combust here. As you can see, the degrees are almost exact. So again, when Venus is also combust, we can feel unappreciated. We'll definitely notice that, perhaps that unappreciation here on the 6th and 7th with the moon going through Libra. So notice this, especially if you have Venus in your natal chart, if it's combust in your natal chart, if you're ruled by Venus, like a Libra or a Taurus, you might already have a sensitivity to not feeling appreciated. You may tend to already devalue yourself by compromising too much and then blame other people for it, the kind of Libra issue that Libra and Taurus have to deal with. Compromising too much already and then getting frustrated because you already compromised and didn't hold your own sort of boundaries very well. So these could be big issues in this month, these sort of boundary issues. All the planets in Cancer, especially with Venus combust and Mars combust. Watch that. Again, on the 6th and 7th and into the 8th, this could be sort of problematic. You might wind up feeling that way and taking it out on others. That's what winds up also being difficult. And then we get into the 8th and the 9th and halfway through the 10th, and the moon is in Scorpio. Of course, this is where the moon is debilitated in its sign of debilitation. And it's debilitated because Scorpio is where we are aware of our vulnerabilities and this quality of the potential to be dominated and to be jealous and to have people manipulate us or to manipulate others because we're afraid. So these imagined fears and worries and stuff like that could be sort of paramount and in your mind on the 8th, 9th, and 10th with this debilitated moon here. You also see that on the 8th, on the 9th, as soon as the moon, right after the moon goes into Scorpio, Mars moves into Leo. So for all intents and purposes, Mars is Sandhi, and in this Gandanta point, especially very close to the Gandanta point, this last degree on the 7th and 8th and 9th. So again, those days, 7th, 8th, 9th, 10th. So from the 7th to the 10th, you would say, Mars is also changing signs as the moon is getting debilitated. And Mars is changing signs in this Gandanta point between Cancer and Leo. So this Gandanta point between Cancer and Leo is where the energy kind of stops. There's like a sort of hard stop and a tendency to get really stuck and sucked into a kind of difficult energy. So again, August 7th through the 10th or the 11th could be pretty intense for sure, as Mars is changing signs, moving from its deepest debilitation into Leo. Again, it's also very combust, and the moon is debilitated. So again, that could be quite a bit of emotional triggering going on. So August 7th through the 10th, especially, watch the emotional triggering. Write it down, August 7th through the 10th. And that's a big theme that you want to notice at that time, because there's a lot of factors, sort of lining up. And you can see how I figured this stuff out. You have to look, okay, first I look at Mars, at the moon, then I look back and saw Mars is just changing signs. It's also in a Gandanta point. It's also combust. There's a lot of things going ding, 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 ding. A lot of things adding up here that aren't so beneficial. And that, by the way, just to let people know, I also am currently doing a special on this course where I talk about all kinds of these things like combustion, low degrees, and a whole bunch of other things, called the Swiss Army Knife course. And you could look at that page and you could notice all of these special considerations that really allow you to understand how to do chart readings at a very high level, especially with a lot of these things, even that I was just talking about, like this dignity of the moon, which is debilitated. Mars was debilitated. Mars was also combust. Mars is also changing signs, which means the degrees are very low. All of those things are these special factors, and you have to know how to interpret each one of them. And again, that's actually what I did in the Swiss Army Knife course. I took all of these things that are very important, but they need to be handled separately, and kind of brought them all together. And so when you start to see these kinds of things pile up like that, then you know that it's important to, that there are a lot of factors coming together that sort of weakens this and makes it, sort of compromises the power that could come out. So Swati said, good morning. Hi, Swati. And then Anna Bobana said, Swati Ascendant here. You just burned all of us Libra placements. Well, we all have some Libra somewhere. We all have each of the 12 signs. I have my moon in Libra, so I get it too. You wouldn't know it to look at me, but I'm just too nice for my own good. No, I can be very, myself as a Libra moon. I'll tell you what winds up happening is I wind up getting irritated when I can't help the person. Like if I can't help them, or if they're putting me in a position where I can't give them what they want, like in relationships or in friendships or something. I get frustrated when they won't let me, when they're making a situation that makes it so I can't fulfill their wishes. That's what frustrates me. It's like, you're asking me to do this, but then you're not giving me the situation to do it. It's kind of how my moon in Libra comes out. But we all have this energy somewhere. But so again, to go back here, this placement, as the moon goes through Scorpio on August 8th, 9th, and 10th, the power of the moon in Scorpio is it's a lot of devotion. It's a very deeply devotional placement. And it's joined Jupiter here, which is very powerful, especially for bhakti and the devotion. This is why right now it's a very devotional time, even though all the crap in the world right now, even though the world seems to be just going to hell. Politically, no matter which side you're on, it looks horrible. Certainly if you're more on the progressive side, it looks 1,000 times more horrible. But even for conservatives, they might seem like they're winning, but to them, they have their own version of it being horrible. But in the midst of all of this, there's hope. There's hope all around. Notice how crazy this is. There's both a lot of despair and a lot of hope at the same time, or a lot of, sort of belief that somehow it's going to work out. And this is because there's all this Jupiter energy, this Ketu Saturn in Sagittarius, as I've been saying for such a long time, is really showing, and it's revealing how crappy the things we have been believing really are. Again, you can go back months, I've been saying this, how it's going to reveal the corrupt belief systems we have. And again, I said it's in all ways. It's politically, personally, romantically, Personally, K2 Saturn is just destroying it on some level, saying none of it's worth anything. But again, this Jupiter going retrograde in Scorpio is still bringing a lot of devotion. If you have a certain amount of hope, especially if you have a spiritual practice, spiritual beliefs, and spiritual practices especially, it's a very devotional time where you just have this faith that somehow it's going to work out, even though we almost don't have any reason to believe that. There's nothing, but just this kind of unshakable strength. That's the best quality of Scorpio, is this emotional resilience, right? It's that fixed water. So even though, as I said, we have all this unpredictable energy happening with Mars, Gandanta, combust, moving from debilitation to the next sign, and then the moon becoming debilitated, this Jupiter is still really delivering a lot of devotion and bhakti. And that's going to be influencing the moon, obviously, as the moon goes through Scorpio, as you can see. So moon going through Scorpio is going to really deliver that devotional nature. And we're going to see some similar themes continue as we go through on August 11th, 12th, when the moon joins this K2 Saturn, again in Sagittarius. K2 Saturn is, again, quite intense and heavy and, probing, which is, as I said before, revealing how those things that gave us hope aren't really worth it. We need to find a deeper source of purpose and hope. And, especially things fueled by this Rahu and Gemini as well, that allows us to see things with more intelligence. You also notice Jupiter is no longer retrograde. He stops being retrograde on August 11th. You see the R stopped. And again, just like over here, it's basically stationary direct. Look, on August 9th, Jupiter is 2023. On August 10th, he's 2022. That's very slow. That's 1 second. On August 11th, he's also 2022. On August 12th, he's also 2022. So that's about as stopped in the sky as you could be. So Jupiter then is stationary. This was very important in the ancient astrology, especially ancient Western astrology, the Hellenistic astrology. When the planet was stationary, it means it's stopped. It's not moving. It doesn't appear to be moving forward or backwards. So it's like, so these will be very important times. Again, this whole time, let's say from August 8th to August 15th with Jupiter stationary direct, to really notice what comes into your mind. Again, August 8th through the 15th, about that week with Jupiter stationary direct, a great time to really focus on what inspires you, because then Jupiter starts moving forward again, and you can start moving forward with that energy, with a lot of focus, a lot of purpose, right? So if you've been confused and kind of sorting it out, which is what happens when Jupiter's retrograde, notice how that's starting to slow down, and you're starting to feel a renewed sense of purpose. And that can include things like studying, even like studying astrology and really committing to learning this stuff. I know myself, one of the things I've noticed is in the last month or so, and actually since Mercury went retrograde, a lot of students coming out of the woodwork really wanting to study astrology with me now. And I know that we got these planets retrograde now still, but you can see at this time by the middle of August, Jupiter's going to start moving forward again. Of course, Mercury will have already been moving forward. So I'm aware that that's going to be a time when people are ready to start moving forward with something, right? Again, this is how you read this stuff. We have the ideas a lot of the time. The ideas are there. I'm thinking about it. Well, why are we what shifts when we go from thinking about it to doing it? Well, this is the kind of stuff. So first we got to have the planet go retrograde so we even think about it, especially something like Jupiter. We're not even thinking about why we're so disconnected from our purpose, so disconnected from what inspires us. Jupiter goes retrograde and we're like, God, I don't have good teachings. I don't believe the things I don't even really trust the things I say I believe. I'm a total hypocrite about all this stuff. I don't know what I'm doing. And then we reflect on it and we find good, teachings and information, and then we commit to it and we start moving forward with it. So that's great for Jupiter and Scorpio. And it's also reinforced by the Ketu Saturn here, like I said before, which is the same kind of thing. Again, because Jupiter is the planet, but Sagittarius is the sign. So again, this whole thing about finding our purpose, reflecting on it, focusing on it later is also reinforced by this Ketu Saturn. So I'm talking a lot about this at this time because you'll find in the middle of August, as the moon goes through this Scorpio and Jupiter, then it goes over Ketu Saturn and Sagittarius. Again, this is going to be a big time, a very pivotal time when you might really find yourself ready to go forward and actually do it instead of just, again, people hear me say this a lot, but I want to make sure people know that you're never going to really learn, let's say, astrology if you're just doing the snacking on this video and that person and this thing, trying to really learn this that way. It just doesn't work. You can learn some stuff, but then most of it's just about your chart, and you don't really know how to connect it to anything larger, and it just stays stuck there. So again, especially with Mars also then moving into Leo, which is a lot of enthusiasm and a lot of energy. That's a really great placement for Mars as well. So this middle of August is going to be very pivotal for a lot of energy shifting, and the transit of the moon through this section of the zodiac at that time will be a real catalyst to allow for that shift. And we can see, like Anna Bobana says, praying daily for the governments of the world. Yes, me too. I talked about this. My guru Amma tells us to imagine white flowers of peace falling and saying the mantra, Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. Lokaha samastaha sukhino bhavantu. Saying it over and over again, which means may all beings everywhere be peaceful and happy. We can see, and it has an effect. Of course it has an effect, all that intention. So absolutely, not just pray for the governments energetically, but actually do that spiritual practice. Pray for all of us. And Daniel says, I'm already ready. Okay, I hope that means you're ready to, go to the next level, whatever that is for you. TL says, Moon in Scorpio, for me, been told it's debilitated, but I'm not sure the house. Yeah, it's debilitated, but it's also can be very devotional. So these things I've been saying about the Moon in Scorpio also has a lot to do with you, very devotional nature, but you have to make sure to have good teachings. So it's crucial that someone with the Moon in Scorpio is devoted to the right kinds of teachings and not just romanticizing the darkness. So do I have any suggestions for transmuting some of these energies? Yeah, saying the mantra I just described, that I just stated, is a good one. Visualizing white flowers of peace falling all over the world in your mind, and this beautiful peaceful energy, and then say the mantra Lokaha samasta sukhino bhavantu. Loka. I'll spell it phonetically. Samastaha Sukhino Bhavantu. May all beings everywhere be happy. Lisa Allen says hi. Hello, Lisa Allen. So we're here at the 12th, and the moon has gone into Sagittarius with Saturn and Ketu. So, one second. I have to get water. I forgot to get water. All right. So that transit, mainly on the 11th and the 12th, Middle of the day on the 10th, and then the 11th and 12th is very much about also reconnecting to that inspiration and purpose and really focusing on it and being grown up and mature about those things that aren't really working and where you need to make adjustments and face the cold, hard facts and reality, especially about the mistakes you've been making and the factual mistakes. If you know, any kinds of hypocrisy or things you've been saying that aren't correct, that aren't true, and things like that. And you know, teachers that you've been following that aren't stating the truth. You should be seeing those things. They should be revealed. And being willing to change course is big now. And you'll feel the power of that in the middle of August. Like this August 10th, 11th, 12th. That could really be some big themes in your life at that time. August 13th and 14th, the moon goes through Capricorn. And it is, So also for much of the 15th, August 13th and 14th, you know, Capricorn is ruled by Saturn, and this is also the full moon will be on the on this Wednesday, the 14th. And again, like I said before, these lunation cycles are what you get. What are the main cycles in our life? The main cycles in our life are the new and full moons. And at the member site that you saw earlier, you could see how this full moon will affect your sign based on whatever your ascendant is. Like I'm Gemini, so this is a full moon in my 8th house. If you're Pisces, this is a full moon in your 11th house. Totally different. So again, that's extremely important. And so, but we have this full moon now on the 13th and the 14th in Capricorn. So again, Capricorn is where this energy of Sagittarius and all this hope and purpose becomes duty, commitment, effort in Capricorn, where we make a commitment to it, work hard to bring it about. Lisa, I would be happy to present a lecture at San Diego chapter of the NCGR. Would love to. So be in contact with me. I know we're Facebook friends. I'm just so terrible following up with this stuff. I've thought to do it so many times. And a lot of the other chapters as well. I've written for the NCGR as well and all like that. So send me a Facebook message, please. I know we're friends on there, and I'd be happy to do that. Thanks for posting that and for reminding me. So again, on the 14th and the 13th and 14th and into the 15th, that nature of Capricorn is really important. And then, you know, midway through the 15th, and then 16th and 17th, the moon is in Aquarius, and this, you know, this sign of Aquarius is also ruled by Saturn. And it's that air quality of Saturn where we make a commitment to the world and to people and ideas and culture and society. So in Capricorn, Saturn is more focused internally, psychologically, emotionally, where we get our own kind of emotional and our own inner life in order, where we have to really kind of work through our own personal fears and salvation. And however much we've done that, then we're able to like show up in the world and actually contribute something that's worthwhile, rather than just still working on our own stuff, right? So that's how Saturn really works through these two signs. So again, on the 15th, 16th, and 17th, the moon will be in Aquarius, and there'll be a lot of that kind of energy. Now you'll also see that it's aspected by Mars and Venus for much of that time. So that's really a good time, 15, 16, 17, to really get out there and talk about what lights you up. Get out there and share your vision, make the world a better place, service, those kinds of things. Saturn is also aspecting here from from Sagittarius. So here on the 15, 16, 17, you can see that nature of Saturn externalized in the world. Then on 18th and 19th and into the 20th, we have the moon going through Pisces. And of course, Pisces is ruled by Jupiter, and it's where we leave the world. So Aquarius is where we're still trying to save the world and the people and show up and serve and support those causes that are bigger than us, whether they be like political or environmental or social, leave the world a better place. But then Pisces is where we need to retreat and escape from the world, because ultimately we're in the world but not of the world, right? Like you see me doing this stuff. This is Aquarius type of stuff. But then I hang up here and then I go into Pisces land, which is, well, I've done my thing for the world today. Now I need to connect with that which is beyond, because ultimately nothing in the world is ultimately real, right? So that's the nature of Pisces, and that kind of, it can be a sort of escapism though, where we're kind of escaping from the unpleasantness of the world, perhaps, or the stress and the fear of the world. And it's actually where all those problems of the world can really burden us to the point where we want to escape from it. So we always have to be careful with Pisces energy, because, it's easy to say that we're very sensitive there, but we're often very sensitive to all the pain and problems of the world. But it's also an escape from ourselves to sort of put it on the world, right? The world is going to be fine, even though ultimately it kind of sucks. We're not that important to it, So you got to remember, with Pisces energy, we can only do our best, and after we do our best, we have to then surrender and know the true nature of the self. And even though the world can be sad to us, ultimately that should never be an excuse for not tuning in to the true self, because ultimately beyond this world, there's nothing but pure bliss, pure unity consciousness, and we are not of this world. We're in the world, but not of the world. This body's going to die. All the people, all the politics, all the environment, all the stuff that's so important ultimately means nothing, because we're a spirit. So that's big stuff. So 18, 19, and into the 20th, those Pisces themes will be very important. Great for creativity, romance. And again, watch the escapism, especially alcohol, drugs, TV, movies. We escape a lot of different ways. So then again, now midway through the 20th, 21st, 22nd, we have the moon in Aries. And we can also see where, I forgot to mention, when the moon's going through Pisces during that time, Jupiter is aspecting. So it's going to be particularly good for teachings and higher wisdom, gurus, learning from your teachers, learning from your gurus. So you can see there's a very high possibility as the moon goes through Pisces on those days, on the 18th, 19th, and 20th, with Jupiter also aspecting. Great for your studies, especially things like astrology and these dharmic teachings. So again, now we have 20, then 21, 22. Moon is in Aries, and Aries is, of course, where the zodiac starts over. Of course, this is all using the Sidereal zodiac of India, and that's the way it was indicated in all of the texts. And you should see below all my videos now, I'm including a resource that shows you all of the statements from the Indian texts, some understandings of the two zodiacs and how they work, so that you can really understand this and really understand the principles and the common sense behind the Sidereal zodiac and why India always used it. But this Aries is where life is excited and hot and very sort of charging out into existence. So that could be days of a lot of enthusiasm, August 20th, 21st, and 22nd, as the moon goes through this sign. And, we're tracking the moon in this system because it's the mind. It's how the mind feels. It's our sort of collective consciousness. One of the things that I do at that site that you saw was I track the daily, track the daily nakshatras. And the nakshatras are, here we've been looking at the sign, but as you can see here with these daily forecasts, like for example, from the 28th, I talk about the day. This was today, July 28th. I talked about the sun and Sunday. The sign is Taurus. The nakshatra is Rohini and Mrigashira. And the tithi is the 12th tithi, right? And so I talk about each of those things each day. Nakshatra, lunar day, tithi. And so this is a combination of those things. This was the forecast for each of the 12 signs back when we had the, there's also special videos. But anyway, so you want to understand that it's a forecast based on every day. And I'm bringing that up because, as we go through this forecast, you see the first day here, it was Ashwini. Well, on the 20th, it enters at the very end, and it starts in Ashwini Nakshatra. And you see it's Panchami, the 5th lunar day, Ashwini, Aries, and it's on Tuesday, so it's ruled by Mars. So the next day is still Aries, but then it's winds up being Ashwini and Bharani Nakshatra. But then it's Wednesday and Thursday. The Tithi changes from Saptami and Dashami. So again, each of these are different things. The Vara changes. So all of this micro shifting of days are things that we talk about and that we should be tracking every day. So this is why I'm tracking the moon, and I'm sort of, on this forecast, I'm talking about it as it moves through the signs, because the moon is how the consciousness changes every day. And it's the collective awareness every day. But again, in that site, in the forecast site that I told you about, in the member site, I don't just track the moon and the signs for 2.5 days. It's every day, every nakshatra, every time it goes from sign and then nakshatra and then tithi. And I'm going to tell you right now, this is the best way to learn astrology. Hands down, it's the best way. Those who get my certification course now, they also get access to this every day. You get to watch this every day, and this is the best way to learn, is to notice every day what's going on. And so you want to definitely, avail yourself of that. Again, you can try it for only 50 cents. I mean, can't do much better than that. So I'll go back and look at a few of these comments. Looks like Swati said, Moon in Aquarius, service when you make the world better is a very prominent feeling. Yes. I'm in a main period of Jupiter, sub-period of Mars. This will end in August. Great. Boom. Head explodes. Part of the world, not of the world. Kaboom. There you go. So is Bhukti same as Dasha? Don't speak the language. So it's the second level. You have Dasha. I usually say Mahadasha and Subdasha rather than Bhukti. Bhukti it's another term. Yeah, Subdasha. Okay, so Fiery Mind says Bhuktis are smaller cycles. Okay, we got that question answered. So we'll get a video from you when the moon goes into Pisces. Maybe. Doing a Dharma retreat for 16th week. Good timing. Okay. Allison says, hi, Sam. Hi. I have Aquarius sun lady, works with me, and she hates to be thanked by me. Oh, that's interesting. Okay. Very important to consider the dashas and subperiods to see how the transit will impact us. Yes. Did you start in Western astrology? Asking me. No, I didn't. I kind of did, but not really. I knew about the general planet signs houses, but I didn't really practice it. I practiced Vedic astrology because I've been doing yoga and Vedic teaching for about 25 years, and all the Western psychological stuff that was being said through the Western astrology didn't really resonate with me. Audra understands escapism, and I'm in a Jupiter something time. Need to look it up. Claire says, Sam, happy August 2019. Love and miracles for all. Make the world a better place every day by sharing love and kindness with all on planet Earth world. Well, I'm glad you do that, Claire. Way to go. Anna Bobana, I started in Western. Oh, maybe they were talking to each other. I get it. Anna Bobana is just the celebrity of them all. She's got everybody answering. Okay, that's me. Fiery Mind, Sam, what about Sun and Leo along with Mars and Venus and Mercury? Okay, good. It's a good time to check in with that. So yeah, I talked about it earlier in the forecast that the sun was going to be, that these planets are combust. Notice how the sun is really catching up now. Venus has passed the sun, and the sun, but Venus and Mars are very combust now. As I said earlier in the forecast, combustion is a big part of this month. So we're really seeing this whole time for the middle part of the month. Watch these degrees, how as we get, this was August 15th. You notice a little earlier, Venus was behind. That's why I said Venus now passed it. Venus was behind the sun, lesser degrees, then it surpasses it. So again, especially all these in Leo. So it's a very good call there with Fiery Mind. Then not surprising, Fiery Mind, notice this fiery connection. So again, planets get combust when they're very close to the sun. Venus sun shows a lack of, or I'm sorry, when Venus is combust the sun, which is very close, and it's not retrograde, then it can show a tendency to not feel so appreciated. And then in Leo, we can be pretty fired up and frustrated about it and demanding that you give me love and attention. And particularly with Mars also there, which is even more intense. So we can see from August 18th, let's go forward from, especially with the sun in Leo, August 18th through much of the rest of August. Yeah, through the rest of August and into September, we have all of this combustion. To around the middle of September, we have all this combustion in Leo. So this could be tough on your relationships. Middle of August to the middle of September could definitely be stressful on your relationships because of all of this fiery energy in Leo, the sun burning these planets. So the one thing to understand, like you can even understand it astronomically, when you look up in the sky, you won't be able to see them. You won't be able to see Mars. Mars and Venus are behind the sun. Okay, they're behind the sun at this time. So I should load the Solar System Scope app back on my computer next time, and I'll bring that up too and show you the astronomy. But if we were to see the astronomy, we would see the Earth looking through the sun and these planets on the other side of it, Venus and Mars behind it. So they're burned up in the sun. You can't see them. So that's what the combustion is. So again, Venus is the planet that wants to get along and wants to accommodate another person. Mars is the energy that doesn't, that says, no, I want what I want, and I'm ready to fight for it. And so we need to always be balancing these two energies. So when they join, there's always a bit of a conflict. But then you see which one is sort of getting the better of it when Venus and Mars join. And sometimes Venus gets the best of it. Like sometimes Venus and Mars might join in Libra or Taurus or Aquarius, right? Or Pisces. And Venus generally may be getting the better of it because it's more Venus-like. Then we get it in a fire sign, and it's more Mars-like. That doesn't include combustion. Then you add combustion to it, it's even more Mars-like. So what I would tell you is that in your relationships and in your personal interactions, be very careful about overstating and getting too fired up and being too ready to fight with people from the middle of August to the middle of September. Just notice what happens in the world. Notice all the fighting. I mean, you wonder it could get any worse. It will. Notice how it's going to get it'll get even worse. It'll get more contentious. Hard to believe. Hopefully we won't have a kind of conflict. It could definitely be a kind of conflict in the world. I hope not, but it's definitely the kind of things that also can show things going boom, blowing up. Not very diplomatic. We could see diplomacy go at this time. So that's scary for the world as well. Middle of August to the middle of September. Unfortunately. Purva Falguni is maybe a big nakshatra. Magha. You see they're all in Magha here. A lot of them. Venus, Purva Falguni. Let's see when they... Now here's where, more than anything, Mars, Sun, exact in Purva Falguni. Let me go back. Even here. So when the Sun goes in Purva Falguni, especially like right here, yeah, so the end of like August 31st until like the middle of September, I wouldn't be surprised to see some very unfulfilling things in the world with very poor diplomacy and potential explosiveness, maybe in the Middle East, Israel, maybe things blowing up somewhere. It's hard to even predict where at this point because there's so many powder kegs around the world. So good call there, Fiery Mind. I appreciate it. So let's get back to the daily here. So August 23rd, 24th, into the 25th, we see the moon goes into Taurus. Now this is where the moon is exalted. It's opposite the Scorpio where it's volatile and restless. Here, it's stable and solid. And it's where we feel that sort of connection to the heart, that connection to peace and stillness and our family and those things that really support a healthy mind and emotional state. That's really what the moon is. It's our mind and our emotional state. And when it's in Taurus, it's very much that place of structure and the stuff we have around us that naturally makes us relax and feel settled in our home and in our sort of place of comfort. Now you see here Jupiter's also aspecting. You look, it's still 20 degrees. It still hasn't really moved. Remember back here when we were looking at it stationary direct, it was around 20 something. Look, it's still 20 something. So these outer planets, Saturn and Jupiter, they station for quite a while. Jupiter's going to be there at that 20 degrees of Scorpio for like a month. So you see Jupiter from Scorpio aspecting the moon in Rohini in Taurus. So again, this is a very good time for those Jupiterian and those Jupiter and Scorpio themes. Remember when the moon was over here, it was as well. Here also, very supportive of teachings and your gurus and that devotion and that bhakti. Especially, again, even to learning things like astrology and all of that. Very good for that, for your studies. And it's showing that you should be doing this stuff. You should be learning this stuff properly. Everybody is meant to know this. Again, it's not just for the gifted few people. Everybody should understand this. All the educated people in the ancient times understood this sort of cosmology and how the universe worked, at least in general. So everybody should understand it, at least in general. And so again, Jupiter's also aspecting Mercury at this time. If we back this up, Mercury's moving pretty fast. So you can see this, that whole time that the moon has been going through Aries, Mercury and Jupiter, very close aspect, even when the moon was going through Pisces. Jupiter's aspecting Mercury here, this trinal aspect. So look, you can see this is a very ripe time in the middle of August for studying astrology, studying higher, things that inspire you, higher purpose. Jupiter aspecting the moon, Jupiter aspecting Mercury. Jupiter was just aspecting all those planets in Cancer. And now he's moving forward, though, like I said, and he's stationary direct. So he's not retrograde anymore. We're not just thinking about it. He wants to move forward now. Okay, then in August 25th, 26th, into the 27th, moon is in Gemini. Again, this is great for wanting to understand how things work, how to, explore, different ways of understanding the world. Moon in Gemini with Rahu. So this is bringing up that Rahu in Gemini, right? Which, as I've been saying, it's been a time where we're looking for the good answers, and we're looking at good information and noticing what's not good information. And again, this is why I said before, it's opposite this Ketu in Sagittarius, which is penetrating through our false beliefs and those things we believe in and those teachers we believe in who aren't worth a damn. What we're seeing instead is good information that's coming. It's coming quickly, and it's there to say, look, here's the good information, because Rahu is very powerful in Gemini, right? Where we really can get it and go, oh, okay, that makes sense. And wanting things to make sense, not just believe them and follow blindly. It's very easy to follow blindly now, especially online, on the internet and all this. Again, even look at the people that you look at on the internet, that you follow on YouTube for astrology or other kinds of things. Are they really learned, or is it just that you like them because they're nice looking, or maybe they say some good stuff, but again, really quantifying how much you're really getting from all of the information you're taking in. That's a big part of what we're all learning right now. And again, of course, this is all sidereal zodiac based. This is why I said this transit of Rahu through Gemini started March 23rd. So since the end of March, this has been a major theme in all of our lives. So I'm talking about that now because when the moon goes over it, this comes into our mind for those couple of days. So again, this is why you stay up with this every day. And again, in that member site that I showed you, this is what I do every day. Is I give that overview, and then I'll be saying on this day, on the 25th and 26th, moons join Rahu and Gemini again. So you're looking for that, expansive information that really helps you understand what's true and what's not. So again, I just give indications to remind people, okay, remember, it's that part that's also there. So again, it's very important and powerful for these couple of days, August 25th, 26th, into the 27th. Then midway through the 27th, the 28th and 29th, the moon is in the middle of the 29th. As you see, moon is like 2.5 days. It's never gives me solid days. It's always half part of this one, half of it, then you get a full one, and then half of the next. But it's like 27, 28, and into the 29th. Moon in Cancer again, where it started. See, the moon is now waxing. It's almost new again. See, it's Dwadashi, the 12th lunar day. It's almost the new moon again. But it's the moon in Cancer on these days, which returns to that nature of needing to connect to the heart, wanting to feel that sort of purity of the heart. That's what Cancer is. That purity of the heart, where we go deeper than just our personal desires. Like a mother's love for the child is deeper than her desires from her partner, right? With the partner, you want something. You want pleasure, happiness, sex, compromise. You want to get something. Mother's love for the child, you don't really want to get anything from your child, right? That pure love, that kind of pure love. Or like for our pets or other things that we just want to give love to. So that'll be important, 27th, 28th, and into the 29th. Again, we still have this Jupiter aspect. Look, it's still 20 degrees. Now 20 degrees, 46 minutes. Hardly moving at all, right? It's stationary. And you see Saturn also, 20 degrees. So you've got these two planets stationary at about 20 degrees. So then we have, as we said, the 29th, midway through the 29th, and the 30th and the 31st. We have the moon is mostly in Leo at that time. And It's also joined this Mercury, Mars, and Venus, and all this combustion and all that. Again, the end of the month is going to be very intense. We got the 29th for most of the 29th. And 30th, we see, again, Moon in Leo is quite fiery and could be a lot of frustration sort of building up, a kind of flashpoint here. Again, combust Mars, combust Venus. Mercury is also combust. A lot of combustion here at the end of August. And the moon joins that, this new moon. Again, that's that new moon cycle in Leo. Again, it's the new moon for everyone, which means sun and moon come together and start that new cycle. So when sun and moon come together, that's what starts the cycle. That's the first lunar day. It's called Pratipada. Again, that's when you have all the ceremonies often in Indian culture. It's when you have the Divine Mother Festival. It's when you have what's called Diwali. Almost every new moon is a celebration because that's literally like the beginning of their month. That's a cosmic month. It's not necessarily a calendar month, but it's a cosmic month. And they coordinate the cosmos with the calendar pretty well, like I said at the beginning. But it's not a calendar in the sense of a year because you never know when the sun-moon cycles are going to line up. So you can't know the exact calendar day of the year, which was what we use in the Gregorian calendar. But those new moons are literally like the new month, but it's the month of Leo, right? So that sun and moon come together at that time. And so again, I put the link again because it's important wherever the sign of Leo is for you, based on your ascendant, it's that month for you. Like I'm Gemini. So this day, August 30th, begins the month of Leo, which is the month of my third house, because I'm Gemini, right? The one we looked at the beginning, that new moon in Cancer that started on August 1st, for me, that was the month of my second house. That's the month of my second house. That's starting. The one that just happened was the month of my first house. The one before that was the month of my 12th house. So it means that's the lesson I'm working on at that time. And again, this is why I give people this is why I give people this direction that get my certification course now, because learning this is so important. Once you start tracking this, it winds up being very obvious in your life that these are the cycles of your life. And so, that's why it's so important. Go through a few questions here. So, Audra said, nakshatras are very important. Yes, they are. And Audra says, I feel obsessive over Vedic astrology. Well, here's the thing you said I feel like I should be doing. In the ancient times, everyone who was educated understood and had a knowledge of astrology. They had a knowledge of how all this stuff worked. And now we don't. And again, that's what my certification courses are to teach people. I teach people at all levels. And, there's a reason why so many people have taken my courses and have graduated and have glowing reviews about it, because it takes you from the very beginning and shows you how it works. Now, whether you go on to be an astrologer or not is a very different thing. But everybody is supposed to understand how the cosmos works. You're meant to know that. And that's what astrology is. Again, not everybody's going to be an astrologer, but that's not the reason to study it. And that's not the reason any astrologers wound up studying it. They wound up studying it because they loved it and they wanted to understand how it works, how the universe works. Do you want to understand who you are and why you're here? That's why you study it. That's the reason. So again, that's what my course does. And by the way, all that's outlined in my book and whatnot too, where you understand how it's put together, this divine, intelligent design. So And so Matthew asked this. I've said this so many times. Transits are always from the ascendant. Okay, always from the ascendant. All right. So that's always where they're read from. And yes, I know it's astrologers say the moon because it says that in the ancient books, but that's mainly because they didn't have good birth times. Again, once you start looking at this and researching it and watching it and tracking it, there's no doubt that transits are unfolding from the ascendant. Learned a good lesson on a last lunar eclipse. The calm and content tolerance went out the window for one magical night. Okay. Alicia said she wanted to purchase the course on spiritual secrets of Vedic astrology on Shaivism. Yes, yes, it's available. It's if you go to my website, VedicAstrologyCenter.net, and you click on the button that says courses, and then you search Shaivism, or you can go there and just search spiritual secrets or Shaivism, and you'll pull it up. And so people are asking about certain things, cryptocurrency, Bitcoin. I'll do another update about that at some point. And it just in general. Just going through a few of these. Janet Perez. Hi, Janet. It's been a long time. I've seen you off and on. I remember you study with me, and you were doing some astrology. I seem to remember. So great. Anna Gobana, you're welcome. Thank you for coming. So let's see here. Looking at a couple more here before I wrap up. There's one more day in the month, but I just wanted to look at a few of these questions here. So is Jupiter returned for me, but how does Jupiter being in its own house like for the rest of y'all? Okay, so just sort of nice conversation that people are having. And so Alicia says, I start my day with your daily forecast and add the nakshatras of the day mantra to my regular mantra. It's really changing my life, changing me. Yay, Alicia. Alicia is someone who started studying with me very recently, and she's really taken it to heart. Yeah, very good. Amazing how these things change and shift us. Guess what? These things work. And again, this is very traditional. This is what priests do every day. This is what we're supposed to do every day, is understand the daily energy. And when I say priests, I mean, look, we're all householders in this world. We don't have to be a priest. We don't have to go live in an ashram. There's this false choice that everyone has, that we can't be spiritual unless we're living in an ashram or like we're a monk or whatever. Very few people have the karma to do that. So instead, what they wind up doing is nothing. They live a life of indulgence. Instead of being a yogi, they become what's called a bogi, which is they just indulge with no introspection, and then they wonder why they're miserable, and then they're like, oh yeah, I'm spiritual because I study this and read this, and my spirituality, and all this illusion where you're just not doing anything meaningful. I'm sorry to be, cynical, but relative to what should be and could be happening, it's really not that meaningful. Studying a couple things, entertaining your mind with things here and there, it's not meaningful shifting and changing. We change because of practices. There are specific practices that when you do them, your consciousness shifts. One of the main practices is something like astrology, where you align with the energy just so you can live your life better. And for example, when you go to temples, one of the things that the priests do in the temple is they say the sankalpa every day. And the sankalpa is inclusive of all of the stuff that I showed you that's in my member site. When they do the morning ceremony, they evoke the Rashi, the Tithi, the Nakshatra, the Vara. There's also other parts of what's called the Panchanga that the priest also evokes. so that you're in alignment and you're bringing in the grace and the blessings of those energies. That's how we start our day, so that you have an intentional moment of understanding this, right? It doesn't mean that you then don't do yoga or meditation or anything like that, but this is what astrology is for, is to align with those energies. And again, when you align with the cosmos aligns with you. When you give attention and devotion to something, it returns it back. Whether you know it or not, you are inextricably linked to the cosmos. In fact, you are the cosmos. Again, if you might think that's just some weird belief system, but all right. And it's a weird belief system from someone who's been making a damn good living at it for 15 years. So how many people do you know who are doing that? So maybe it's because I've been having that relationship with it for that long. And it started out of nothing, from someone who never went to college, from someone who has no business doing what I'm doing to some extent. But one of the things I did right away was noticing every day what was happening and connecting with it. So we all know this. When you teach something, the energy flows into you. And everything is about love and devotion, attention and intention. So I always really take off my hat if I was wearing one and really pranam and give my humble appreciation to those who actually take it on. And I've seen every one of my students that have taken it on, they all greatly benefit. So Leisha is a great example of how to really model these teachings. Candace says, do you find as people age, the sun becomes more important? No, actually, as people age, again, I don't like to make these things pro forma, but the planet that has to do with old age has to do with Saturn. The sun is actually quite youthful. You see a person's Saturn in their older age because, again, Saturn makes us old. And you'll see how well a person has made peace with time, how much people are still all like holding on to regrets and guilt and shame and not forgiving people from the past with Saturn. So Saturn is more of the symbol. But again, this is just a generality. This is just an attribute. And it's important to know. But again, the reason I want to make that sort of caveat is because when you're reading a specific chart, then you're reading their dashas and you're reading all the affectations. But you should notice this. You should notice these kinds of things. Again, like, for instance, I got Saturn dasha when I was a kid. That's when I got the dasha. You should understand that that's a hard dasha for a kid because Saturn is not really the time, childhood is not the time when we really understand Saturn energy yet, right? So you should understand those kinds of things. Just, file that away. When you see someone about to go into Saturn dasha and they're older, you can say, this is a good age to get it. And of course, I do refer to those things all the time. So again, like, for example, Rahu, when someone is older, often doesn't feel so good because Rahu is like, let's try a whole bunch of new stuff now that I'm 75. It can be kind of tricky. But then, of course, everything has its magic and has its place, but in a general sense, which I can kind of get that's what you're talking about, it's more about being appropriate, not, quote, more important. That's a little too imprecise, I think. So looking at a few other things here. Swati says, you're like divinity in this chaotic world. Thank you for being you. Wow. Thank you for saying that. That makes me feel very good to know that my crazy world is helpful to you. Allison says you can feel it when you walk in nature. Not sure what it is, but I'm sure it's something good. When you walk in nature, whatever you're feeling is usually pretty good. Being aware is so important, as Sam said, to be aware of the new moon cycles has great significance. Absolutely. Colleen said, forgiveness is very important. Yeah, forgiveness is what shows how we've aged. So this is why I mentioned it about Saturn. You can see how well someone has aged by how much forgiveness and how much they've let go of the past. We don't let go of the past because we're angry at people. We have regrets and anger. Anger and regret is what keeps us stuck in the past. And they're usually synonymous. We find our regrets buried and tangled up with people we're still angry at. Because we got plenty to be angry at. Life wasn't fair. And it's not. It's not fair. It's not meant to be fair. But the only reason it doesn't seem fair, by the way, is because you don't remember all the crap that you did that you're getting paid back for. It's true. And I don't like to talk about things in those terms of punishment and all that. I don't look at astrology that way or karma that way. I don't think it's very helpful, but it's true. Just because it's true doesn't mean it's helpful. But again, you wouldn't think it was unfair if you remembered all the horrible stuff you did through all your past lives that you get the results for now. So it's might not seem fair, but it is. All right. So okay. So Alicia says, love and devotion, attention and attention. You're an inspiring teacher. So grateful for your wisdom and teachings. Thank you, Alicia. And I'm glad to have you really taking it on. That nothing feels better for someone who is putting things out than to see people, get it and then apply it, because that's what we're all trying to do. We're all trying to help each other and influence each other. And you have no idea how much students help me as well. So finish up here with the last day. And you see we were here August 30th, and it was the new moon, the first day of the month. And we had the Mercury, Sun, Mars, Moon, Venus, all of that in Leo. So again, remember, this end of the month, especially the 29th and 30th, is quite a lot. And then the moon breaks out on August 31st. It goes into Virgo. So we'll feel a bit of a reprieve there. And that, we should feel a little bit more of that sort of relaxing a little bit. But the end of the month is pretty intense, because even as we go through this, Moon Rahu here, like the 25th, 26th, we got Moon Rahu, and then it goes through Cancer, but it's getting very dark. Again, as the moon gets dark, it's what's called, Chestabala gets really low. And it means this source of strength for the moon. It has a higher Chestabala when it's further away, when it's full. So what it means is that the mind starts to get really we get kind of sad and more depressed and more emotional as the moon gets darker, at least more emotionally sad and feeling depleted. So you want to notice the end of August. Notice the tendency toward depletion and feeling quite depleted around the end of August, even starting from the 26th, especially 26th through the end, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. All those days from 26 to 30 especially, it's like, ugh, we're going to get into that. Like, again, one of the things is that the worldly mind becomes dissatisfied. And this is a very simple thing to understand, is that because our mind, and we're so externally focused. Again, the full moon is very associated with going out into the world. And when the moon is bright, it's like, okay, I'm going out and I'm connecting with people and I'm blah, blah, blah. I feel all the connections. That's associated with the moon being bright. Here, the moon is dark. The moon being dark is like, I don't feel like going out. I don't want to be around people. Blah, blah, blah. Now, again, we tend to see that as something that's depressing. Again, especially it gets here with Leo and Mars, and it's irritating and all that. But that's one option. Another option is this is a very good time to just withdraw and just be as introspective as you can. Okay, this is, well, I was hoping to see a weekend, but it's not. Sorry. This starts on a Monday. So that whole week, you're going to be at work. Look, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. That's going to be a great work week. This is going to be something. But what happens is that your mind doesn't feel like, just not feeling very social. So just be aware of all the emotions and the triggering and all like that. And it could be kind of stressful for sure. But again, what you want to do is, after you fulfill your worldly duties at work and all that, come home and really rejuvenate. That's what the dark moon is for. That's what the waning moon is for. It's a time to release and let go. And then especially when it gets here, there's also a lot of power on the 29th and 30th to really illuminate, and purify the mind, especially as the mind is in Leo, ruled by the sun. It's burned up in the sun. All of that can be very purifying and very healing. Again, it's hard when you don't have a meditation practice. It's hard when you just think your whole life revolves around the world and desires and all the people. That's when it's hard, and that's why it's hard. No one says you have to not have those things. It's just your whole life shouldn't revolve around them, because guess what? That's not all you are. That's not all there is. That's not me being a bummer. That's called reality. That's truth. So again, we're not balanced in this way. 99% of our life revolves around what's outside and people and all of that. We're out of balance. So all of our depression and sadness is because of this imbalance. That's where all of it comes from. All of it. If we weren't so unbalanced about this, all of the stuff that feels so bad wouldn't be so bad, because all of the things that feel bad usually revolves around something in the world with other people, some things that make us feel weird or this or that, all in relation to things going on outside. So again, when we get this heavy energy, it's a great time to face up to the reality of our inner life and burn all those samskaras. This is why it's great to have yoga practices and traditional yoga practices where they do actual sadhana, spiritual practices, like in ashrams and places like that, or yoga centers, or your own home, whatever it is. Okay. So that transit also, just the last bit here, on August 28th, as the moon is going through, 28th is getting this nice aspect again from Jupiter. Again, see, it's still 20 degrees. 28th, and then 29th and 30th. And then 31st, the moon in Virgo is going to break out of that, and you'll start to feel the moon, starting to wax again and starting to grow again. So, so a couple questions here. So Allison said, thank you, recently moved. I need to find my chart to get more of your streams. So much to learn. Okay. I don't know why you need to find your chart to do that, but if you want to find your chart, you can do that too. Nothing I do is based on your chart, though. Just saying. Mahina says, would love if you start finish with mantras of practice we can add to our daily routine. I don't prescribe mantras often. So, this is what I do, Mahina. Okay. It's hard to overcome desires of this world. Most chase material pursuits, central. Right. Yeah. That's true. By the way, I will just say, as far as mantras, I did say the Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu mantra when it comes up, but so again, you're asking me to like daily routines. You have to be very careful with that kind of thing, prescribing mantras for like thousands of people. I'm letting people know of mantras that, for instance, like my guru said to do for, like mantras for peace and stuff. But I'm not prescribing mantras for everybody to add to their daily practice. That's not what I'm doing. So I hope you see the difference. And like that, people should say the mantras for their beloved deity and visit gurus and spiritual teachers and be formally initiated into those kinds of things. Relative to what I'm saying, especially as it relates to the Loka Samasta Sukhino Bhavantu mantra, that's a general mantra for world peace. Anyone can say it. And it's always prescribed to say, okay? So, anyway, we'll leave it at that. And I hope this was helpful for people to hear. And I hope you have a good August 2019. And again, if you want to see how this will influence your sign or whatever, there's the link there. And, go ahead and share this video with others if you think it will be helpful. Share it on your social media and all that as well, because it's, it's why I put it out there. And those who show up and appreciate it, the best way to appreciate it is to share it and let others know. So you all have a good one.